Welcome to For the Long Run, the podcast exploring the why behind what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. I'm your host, Jonathan Levitt. Through personal and professional connections in the running world, I have the privilege of getting to know some amazing athletes. I've always been fascinated by the psychological aspect of running, and this podcast is aimed at exploring this and much more. I hope you enjoy. This episode is sponsored by Janji. Janji is a local to Boston running apparel company dedicated to exploring, connecting, and giving back through running. Inspired by travel, informed by function, and built for adventure, Janji makes running essentials to equip you wherever you run or roam. The company was founded on the core belief that water is a human right and donates 2% of their sales to supporting clean water organizations around the world. I've known the two co-founders of Janji for over 5 years, and it's been a privilege to see them grow and increase the level at which they've been able to give back to the running community and to the world in general. Welcome back. I have Julia Kohnen joining me today on the podcast. Julia, thanks so much for taking some time to chat.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
For sure. So you are one of the two newest team members of Northern Arizona Elite. So first, welcome to that team. It's exciting to see it growing. And before we get too far, who is Julia?
Well, I am, the newest member of the NAS Elite team, as you just said. I came from St. Louis, Missouri. I've been training, running, with a team in St. Louis for the last 4 years. I trained with a lot of guys there. But I have a kind of a different background of running. I actually played soccer my whole life, high school, and played soccer through college. So I didn't really get into running until my 5th year at the University of Southern Indiana, where I had 1 year of cross country and track. And then moved home after that and kind of slowly started getting into distance running.
And at what point did the idea of becoming a professional runner come up for you?
Well, my one and only collegiate year of running, I had pretty good success for it being the first time I ever had stepped on a track or did cross country. And there were talks of, hey, would you ever consider going professional? But it was still so new to me, and I didn't really understand the running world very much. So I kind of just blew it off and didn't think it was even an option for me. And then when I finally did like my first marathon in 2017, I qualified for the trials. And then when I had a pretty good experience at the trials, I was like, okay, maybe if I really focus and I can see how far I can take this, and professional running could be an option for me.
What was it like qualifying for the trials in your first marathon?
So yeah, I qualified in Chicago. It was actually my second marathon ever. The first marathon I did, my coach Jason back in St. Louis kind of was like, you should really do a full marathon. And there was a local one in St. Louis, and I signed up for it, and we had about 2 months of training. So yeah, it was very new to me, and I ended up running, I think 247 there, 248 maybe. And my coach after that was like, all right, we're training for the marathon and you're going to qualify for the trials. And I kind of thought he was crazy, but 1 year later I signed up for Chicago and hit the qualifying standard, ran 238 there, or 239. And that's when my interest in marathoning and half marathons and just taking running to the next level really interest me, because I was like, I never expected that I was going to even qualify for the trials. So when I did that on my second marathon, I was pretty excited.
What did that mean to you?
It meant a lot. I mean, it just got me more involved in running, which was something more in the running community, something I had never been in the past. And then it realized that I was like, there's a lot of potential out there. I didn't give myself enough credit. My first marathon ever, I was kind of just doing for fun. And when I was pretty close to the qualifying standard, I went out that next year and was like, all right, my coach thinks I can hit this, and I'm going to follow the training. I'm going to do everything I can to hit it. And then after that, it was just kind of fuel to the fire to see what you can do next.
That's awesome. One of the things I like most about running is sort of that like leveling up that you do one thing and then you're like, okay, cool, that's possible. Now what else is possible? And I feel like the longer you run, the more you can level up and the more you can sort of reestablish what normal looks like. So I imagine that if you had, gone back a few years, the level that you're training at now might have seemed incomprehensible, particularly, with only running 1 year collegiately. So for you, what is it like to be doing these things alongside people who, um, maybe they've been doing it for half of their life or 10 to 15 years, whereas um, you've been running at a competitive level for a couple of years now, and sort of the sky's the limit in terms of like having fresh legs and a fresh perspective on it.
Yeah, I think one thing I really like your point of leveling up, because I feel like that's how my career has just grown. I started with, oh, I'll never run a marathon. Oh, I'll never qualify. And then every time I did something, I wanted to do it better and better. And I think this sport is awesome. It just keeps you motivated. Once you hit one standard that 2 years ago I never thought I'd hit, then it's like, what's next? And then to be here, yes, and training with or running against, competing against some of the top girls in the country, girls that have done this and have tremendous times from college and a history of this, I think for me, it's just such an amazing opportunity to learn from them. I mean, I know it's going to kick my butt and it's going to push me and it's going to challenge me, but I'm excited about that. I mean, I can only learn from and gain by challenging myself and trying to get to their level and be with them. And I also think, yeah, I have that perspective of I don't have 15 years of long distance running on my legs. I mean, don't get me wrong, soccer is pretty hard on the body too, but it's a different type of activity.
Yeah, and I think that your point of being surrounded by excellence, like can't be understated. I like the line of, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, or if you're the fastest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And the way that we get better is putting ourselves in situations where we can learn and grow, and um, as we've talked about, like leveling up. So how did you choose that environment? How did this come to fruition for you?
Um, so after the trials, I had a pretty good race and good showing there. So I
Came
got,
in 10th, which
yes.
is very good.
Um, and so that was, and then a couple months before that, last October, I had won the Twin Cities Marathon. And I think
Hmm.
that kind of got me some on the radar a little bit too. So after the trials, I got contacted by Ben and a few other people, and then I went and kind of explored my options. But it was really hard because obviously we know, like 2 weeks after the trials, the world pretty much shut down
Right.
with COVID and everything. So I kept in communication, and then finally I was able to come out and visit. And I visited a couple places. And when I came to Flagstaff and met with Ben and the team, and just after that visit, I was like, I know this is where I want to be. If I'm given the opportunity to go here, I know that's what I want to do. And we took some time because all summer with everything going on and races canceled, but we kept in communication. And then when Ben did offer the spot on the team, I knew that this is where I wanted to be. This is what's going to challenge me, what's going to push me, but where I can see my potential, see how good can I be, or what's next.
That's awesome. I've interviewed both Bens, Kellen, and I hope I'm not missing anyone, but and Scott, and the the way that the athletes on your team carry themselves seem to be different than most, and it goes into the makeup of the team, and you're coming here to share the process and share the highs and share the lows. um, and a conversation I had with Ben Rosario, which was the first episode of this podcast, was pretty poignant, and the way that he talked about run performance and success at the time was different than anything I'd ever heard. for the most part. And he talked about, having athletes at the New York City Marathon and not talking about the outcome, just talking about understanding how to race to get the best out of you and controlling what you can control versus I want to run 229 or 211 or 209 or whatever the time is in the marathon. And I found that fascinating. And for me, getting to a place where I could stand on a start line and not give a shit about the outcome, besides knowing that I did my best, is what it took for me to do my best and break 3 in the marathon for the first time and do these things that, like you said, I never would have thought could be possible. So my very long-winded question to you is, how have you approached running in the past? Has it been a goal-oriented approach? Has it been a process-oriented approach? How does that sort of fit into how you've trained over the last few years?
Yeah, I would say it is we set goals of, a PR is always a goal. So I would work with my coach in St. Louis, and we would kind of pick out before the year, hey, we're going to do half marathon training in this time frame. Maybe summer will be more 5K, shorter distance stuff. What do we want to hit there? And then you'll do a fall marathon, and we'll do the build up to the fall marathon. And we would go into it with just training. Like the goal would be to train better than we did the year before. So you always want to get stronger each year. So the times would be faster, the tempos would be faster. And then, when you get to that start line, you have a goal in mind, but my main thing, you have an A goal and a B goal would always be, the B goal is to PR, and an A goal would be set a time that you actually want, like beyond reach or just a little further. But there are things that are out of your control. To your point, at a lot of these marathons, you can't control the weather, and if it's a terrible day, you have to sometimes let go of that time goal and just go out there knowing that you can put in the work that you did the last 12 weeks and see what you can go out there and be happy with the end result, not putting pressure on a specific time.
I love that. And I think that for amateurs, it's hard because we set these objectives for ourselves, and then we see pros doing it's similar, but the opposite, where it's like, if I execute, it's a good day. And if I get the best out of my abilities on that day, it's a good day. You look at Sarah Hall and how she performed at London. For her, it was, I'm going to run with gratitude and appreciation for my ability to stand on this start line. And I think the trap that so many amateurs fall into is focusing on the times that we don't, they're completely arbitrary, and the meaning is added from, is it a BQ? Is it a PR? Is it a breaking 5? Is it breaking 4, breaking 3? So it's always refreshing to hear the opposite take, or a similar but different take from someone like yourself, who, you're paid to compete and do your best, but it's still about more than just that.
Yeah, and I think something that you said, like in these times today, it's being able to get on the line and do a race, regardless if it is just an inter squad race or a very smaller one. Being grateful that you're on the line and racing again. And so if you race with that, you see outcome that beyond what you expected. If you don't put all this pressure on, oh, I have to hit this time or I'm going to be so upset today.
Is gratitude something that you intentionally practice?
Oh yes. It's something I've actually this year tried to focus on. And I've seen it through even social media. When you follow these other girls on social media, they talk about gratitude, and I started doing a gratitude journal. So where you wake up and every day write down something that you're grateful for. Doesn't have to be anything long or a big note, but it's just, I saw that someone else was doing that, and I was like, hey, that's a small thing you can do every day just to remind yourself, hey, I'm out here running still, or hey, we have all this going on. There are things to be grateful for, instead of being down about things you're missing out on or whatever.
I think that's one of the most powerful things that you can do, right? You have control over your mental state, or you have some control over your mental state. And when you start the day by acknowledging what you do have, I think it sets the tone for the day, right?
Yeah, like I said, I saw that there's this girl I follow, and she's a runner too, and she does a gratitude journal and writes something in it every morning just to be thankful for. And like, if you start your day with that mindset, like, oh, it's a sunny day, or I woke up feeling great today, or I get to go get coffee with my friends. It's just, you look for something positive rather than starting your day with like, oh, I'm sore, or on a negative note. And it really does change your whole outlook going forward. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. You're not positive 24/7 all day, every day, but it
Right.
really does help to start your like mindset in that focus.
If you don't mind me asking, who was it that you saw it from?
Well, the first one I saw was Colleen Quigley writes a journal, and
Mm-hmm.
she's just a St. Louis girl, and obviously very, very good on the track too. So I saw that she did that. And then it was actually just a random blogger that I follow that is more of like a fitness.
Mm-hmm.
She does like hit workouts and stuff. So no one in the running community, but she did it too. And I was like, okay, two of these girls are starting their days with something positive. That's something that I can take and do as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's such a powerful practice. I started doing it after I saw a few friends doing it, and I don't write it down, but it's something that I'll just like think through in my head. And if I get 5, if I get 8, if I get 10, um, yeah, to me, it's less about the like do 10 every day, and more about like do this every day and be mindful of what you do have versus starting the day saying, "Oh, I can't see my friends," or this COVID thing is still here, but instead framing it as a positive. So that's awesome. Um, do you do other sort of mental preparation, or is that the bulk of that?
That's pretty much the bulk of it. That is something I think that I have room to improve on is, uh, as we all know, mental is a very big part of running. Like, running is not only the physical and the hard aspect, but you have to be mentally strong too. And I don't do any specific mental routines or practices. Like, I try to get in the zone and focused. And when I know what race is coming up, I focus on that and I set goals for myself. But I don't do really any specific like mental training.
Got it. Cool. Yeah, plenty of upside there. The sports psychology field is I find it fascinating, and I love digging into it on this podcast and sort of understanding what allows people to be successful despite pain or discomfort physically or whatnot. So when you're deep in a race, what are you thinking about?
Usually thinking about how I'm feeling at that time and trying to just stay focused on where I'm at, not looking ahead. If for example, if it's a half marathon and I'm going for a PR and it's mile 4, don't be thinking about mile 8, thinking about more mile 4 and 5. And that was something that a guy I run with in St. Louis had mentioned to me one time. He was like, take it mile by mile, don't look too far ahead. And obviously you want to make sure you're staying on pace to be where you're at on mile 10, but it's not thinking, it's just staying in the moment and focusing on your body and how you're feeling and getting through. Because if you start to feel down pretty early on, you want to get out of that funk. But if you just dwell on it, like, oh, I'm not feeling good, I'm not feeling good, I'm not feeling, and just keep repeating it to yourself, oh, I have 10 miles left, like, you're just going to go worse and worse, in my opinion, from my experience at least. And I know everyone's different. So during a race, I really just try to focus on where I'm at, taking it to the next mile, then looking at that mile, take it to the next one. Oh, am I feeling good? Can I push it a little more? Can I push it a little more? And so far that's been successful for me.
So talk to me about your trials experience. Atlanta was for many people the last hurrah, the last big event that we got to experience. I was down there, and I get to travel a lot for work and go to a lot of races and whatnot. And there was nothing like this, and it was so cool to experience. So from your side, what was that weekend like, from start to finish?
Well, first, just now looking back, knowing none of us knew that was going to be our last like big race of the year. So grateful that we got that in time. And that's one thing that I always am like, oh, thank gosh that those of us that got to race that day have to be so grateful, because there's so many people this year that didn't get an opportunity to race because it was March and everything started closing. So but that was my first trials. So back to your question of how was I feeling? Going into it, I didn't really know what to expect. A lot of people warned me, don't let the hype get to you. Don't let the hype overwhelm you. And yeah, when you get there, you get to the hotel and you have to go get your bag and get checked in and get your gear checked, and like 4 different things you have to go do. And there's people everywhere. And I'm seeing all these girls that I've looked up to and idled and running, and they're like standing right next to me in the hotel. And so there is definitely a lot going on, and it's a lot of commotion, but it's fun. It is fun to see the running community, and you walk outside and people are trying out and doing loops around the course there, and everyone's just running, stretching. So there's just so much going on that it for me, that's fun. But then when you need to get away from it, just go to your room and hang out. But then the race itself was so exciting. It was obviously, everyone's talked about the hilly course, the windy day. So it wasn't prime, like the perfect flat course conditions that a lot of people want. But I think that's what made it interesting. And it was a very, spectator friendly course. So there's tons of people out cheering everyone on. It was just all around, for me, a fun day, a fun event to be a part of. It just had on that start line. I had so much adrenaline and excitement just to be there alone.
Yeah, it's amazing. The energy that was there was just incredible, from a spectator standpoint. I'm curious what it was like being on the road. I'm looking at a photo here that I took of the women's lead pack, and it's Emma Bates, Aliphine, Sarah Hall, Sally Kipiego, Kellen, Lindsay Flanagan, Molly Huddle, and you're right there in that pack. So I'm curious what that was like from a like a chatter standpoint. Are these women talking? Are you communicating? Are people talking about, let's ease off, let's work together, let's go here? Talking about that dynamic of being in a pack like that.
Yeah, there wasn't much talking, at least from what I experienced, unless I tuned it out, because sometimes I do that as well. But it seemed to be a couple girls that wanted to take off in the front, and then everyone would just tuck and hang on. And the front pack changed a little bit. I know for me, I was just running by with a bunch of these girls, and I was like, okay, I feel good. I'm going to hang with them as long as I can. And you could tell it was a good dynamic of the girls, everyone just kind of there working together, because you had a lot of loops. You had 4 loops of that before you even like took off for the end. And I know at the end when the girls started splitting, that's when some of the conversations, I remember listening to a podcast where Aliphine and Molly Seidel like really worked together at the end. And so I think you had little groups like that, which is awesome. But for the big majority of the pack, I was with that group until about mile 19. And it was just a lot of hanging on together, kind of like teammates, just running together. I didn't hear a lot of communication, but it felt like we were all just there.
That's so cool. Thanks again to Janji for sponsoring the podcast. I've enjoyed seeing Janji grow over the years, and their gear has only gotten better as time has gone on. I have a few pairs of both the AFO split and AFO middle shorts and highly recommend them. Their singlets are super cool too. You can take 15% off all month with the code FTLR15. I hope you love them as much as I do. And now back to our conversation. What does it mean for you to be a runner?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a deep one. I mean, I know that I don't have as many years in running as a lot of these people, but running is a lifestyle. It's the community of people that are in the running world. It's the challenge of pushing yourself to exhaustion, the point of where your body is depleted, and that those are the types of feelings that I've never experienced until I got into running. And it's just so, I mean, yeah, at times it sucks and you have a bad workout or a bad race, but then you have those days that you just crush your workout or you have an awesome race, and running can do so much for you. I mean, after a workout, when you're just done for, you may be hurting, but you're also so, I mean, for me, I'm just like, wow, that's the feeling that you like live for. And running has brought that sense of challenge, get better. What can I do to pushing myself and pushing the limits that I don't think anything else has. And then on top of that, what I kind of started off with was the running community. I think the people and the runners, whether you run as a 220 marathon or a 420 marathon, I just think the community of people are so supportive of everyone and so positive all the time. And it's just something that I have loved and learned to be a part of. So not only is the sport amazing, but the community of people in it really just, I mean, it's now, I mean, I just signed up to be a professional runner. Like that's what I want to do with my life. So it obviously has done a lot for me.
That's awesome. What are you hoping to gain with Northern Arizona Elite?
I think I have a lot to gain. I mean, Ben is the top coach in the country and he has so much knowledge, and I think I can just learn so much from him. And then training with the girls, I hope to learn, one, how to be a better racer from every level. I want to get better from the 5K to the marathon, and I think I can learn that from them. I want to know how to train, how to take rest days, how to everything that they do. I think that I was already training very hard and already focusing on recovery and had all the basics, but I think that I can take everything up the next level by focusing on this. I back home was working 50 plus hours a week while also trying to train and run. And now this allows me more time to focus on running and doing the other little things. And I think I hope to gain is just my full potential, just to see where it's at. I don't know if I've reached it yet, and I want to see where I can go.
That's awesome. What are you hoping to contribute to the team?
I hope that I'm not just learning from them, but I'm able to help push them. I think when you're on a team that everyone is pushing each other. I mean, you saw Alphine, Steph, and Kellen, those three work together, and top three of the top runners in the country. Like they obviously know what they're doing, but they also have had that experience of each one pushing another one on the other day. And I hope that I can bring that to the table and help push them and the other girls on the team in different ways. I know I'll have my work cut out for me, but I think that maybe bringing a different perspective, a different background, that I can contribute something to the team that helps them grow as well.
That's awesome. Speaking of Alphine, I had her on the podcast as well, and one of the topics that we spoke about at length was gratitude. And so she'll be your partner in the gratitude department for sure. But I learned a ton from her in that conversation, and appreciated her perspectives on gratitude and what it means to be a runner as well.
Yeah, and I think that's something, I mean, I've only had a few conversations with her. I just moved here this week, but I've already learned that being a good runner is one thing, but being a good person, off of the running environment is another thing too. And she has that to a T. She's not only the best runner, but she's just a good person.
To an alley T.
Yeah. She's got it all. So I think I can learn that too, being positive and grateful just from having good conversations with them.
Yeah, the community that that you have now in Flagstaff is full of some absolutely incredible athletes, and the response that that they got, and that I mentioned Sarah Hall before, to see the what is the word I'm looking for? The camaraderie amongst competitors. It means you're doing something right, and I think we can all learn a lot from approaching life and not just running. Trying to be a better person. So another question I have for you is a little bit lighter, I guess. Are you nervous for being at altitude? I guess I don't know if that's a lighter question or not. Are you? How is it going from sea level to 7,000 feet?
Yes, definitely. I would say like excited to be at altitude because you hear of all the benefits, and I'm like, oh, this is going to make me that much better. Like that's the thought running through my head first. But then I'm also like, oh, okay, this is not, this is going to be an adjustment. We always
How does it feel so far?
Yeah, so I just got here late Tuesday night. So I ran yesterday and today for the first couple of days, and yeah, you can definitely feel the difference. I know Ben and I had a conversation, and he's like, you're coming up to altitude, like you have to know that we're going to take it easy, we're going to take it slow. So I think he's very smart about this. He's done this with athletes before that come to altitude after not having, and he knows what he's doing. So I'm just going to listen to what he says for me to do, because I have never trained in altitude before. We make jokes back in St. Louis that, I mean, we have very, very humid summers. I mean, they're pretty
Yes.
they're pretty brutal, and we always say our humidity training is the poor man's altitude training.
Right.
So I like to think that we had our own challenge, but definitely 7,000 feet is different feeling. So I've only had 2 easy runs here and feel pretty good on them. But like I said, I'm nervous for that first workout when I'm really feeling the pain.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's just another level of fun. I met up with Ben Bruce at the track, the indoor track that has the stairs that you walk down to get to it. And after we were on the track, we walked back up to the top, and I was like totally spent after just like walking up those stairs. And I just like lobbed a question to him that I knew like wasn't a 1-word answer. And so he talked for like, I don't know, 30 seconds. And I was like, man, I'm like still winded. Hang on. And he was like, dude, it's okay. I've been here for, 10 plus years, and I still get that. So it's just funny that, professional athletes deal with that as well.
Oh yeah. I think it's going to be quite the adjustment for a while. It's not something that your body takes on in a week and you feel normal. I think it takes months and months to get used to it. But I mean, that's why you're here, to push yourself
right
in that level.
For sure. So fast forward 10 years, what are you really proud of?
In 10 years from now?
Yes.
I just want to know in 10 years from now that I gave it my all, and I came out here to take a chance and see what I can do and to get better. And 10 years from now, I want to look back and say, I did everything I possibly could, and I got this much better. I don't know where I'm going to be, but I hope it's at the top. If we're being honest, I hope that 10 years from now I can be there, but it's going to take a lot of work. And I want to look back and say that I did all that work and I did everything I could to be there.
That's awesome. I love asking professional athletes this question because very rarely do they answer with like something tangible. It's always almost exactly like what you said. The most poignant example was Vanessa Frazier. Her answer was, I don't know, but I want to be better than I was back then, essentially. And I think that like that's how we started the conversation, where it's like, how good can I be? What else can I level up? That kind of thing, where if you have this goal line or finish line in mind. Once you get it, then what? And so I feel that these athletes who answer in this way, including you in that, of course, it sets you up for longer term success, because I don't think that it's a goal line to goal line type goal setting process. So I guess the next sort of follow up question is: do you feel you're intrinsically or extrinsically motivated?
I would say extrinsically, I guess. I don't know. I haven't been asked that question before. That's a good one. Because I get motivated by seeing all these other people do really well and succeed. And when I see that, I want to do that. I want to be in those shoes. I want to be getting better and on the podiums and crushing times and have my name out there that people know who I am. And so like that kind of stuff motivates me. But then also I have this internal motivation that is just personally like where I want to be better for myself. And I don't really care about the other stuff.
I love that. So we've talked a lot about success and what you would be proud of and growth and all that good stuff. Talk to me about a time when you experienced failure and what you took away from it.
I think anyone who's been a runner has experienced failure at some point. I've had plenty of workouts or races where I, just didn't feel great. Even just this summer, I was training pretty hard with some of the guys on my team in St. Louis and set myself up for hitting a really fast 5K, trying to hang on with them, and got there. And it was a humid day, but hey, you can use excuses for anything. So I don't like using that. And I didn't hit the time I wanted, didn't hit the goal time. And, I just beat myself up for it after it for that whole day. And then it took me the next day to realize one, it was just a time trial because no one's racing right now. But even if it was a race, I put in the work. So I got to the line. I gave it all. And there's ups and downs in this sport, and you're going to experience failure. And I've experienced it time and time again. And I'm really bad about something I can improve on is I beat myself up a lot and I dwell on it. Whereas you just need to get over it and go on to the next one.
What do you think it'll take for you to work on that?
I think one, if you even listen to Kipchoge after the London marathon, he said, this is the sport. You have ups and you have downs. Time to get on to the next one. He said it perfectly. And obviously he's the best of the best. Hearing other people able to experience their personal failures, even if you don't think it's a failure, they do, and they get over it and move on. And then they accomplish something amazing. Sarah Hall also had a really good quote this week that said something about this sport has failed me so many times, but her consistency and just continue to push through. And yeah, you have those failures, but look at what she just ran at the London Marathon, incredible. So I'm seeing other people's experiences and hearing them talk about failures and seeing where they are in the future is kind of been helping me know that, hey, you can't keep dwelling on one bad workout, one bad race. Obviously you don't want to be overjoyed when you do it, but don't take it in, learn from it, and move on to the next one and let it motivate you to work harder.
Totally. That's something I've learned definitely in the last year or so. And my take on it is if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. And if you're not failing, you're never going to achieve your true potential. So I think that failure in itself is one thing, but it's an essential piece of getting better. Same thing with injury. I had a bilateral stress reaction in both my legs this January. Yeah, it was super fun.
Sounds like it.
And what caught it early enough before it became actually really bad. But the point is, unless we get to these places, we don't know where the limit is, right? And if we're trying to train to be as good as we possibly can, whatever that means, whether it's like I said, a 4-hour marathon, a 3-hour marathon, a 2-hour marathon, a 159, you have to take these risks. And if you're not taking them, you'll never reach that upside.
I love that. I think that's exactly what I needed to hear, and I need to keep telling myself. And stuff like that is, and you asked, how am I going to work on that? And it's hearing things like what you just said and taking it and realizing that, yeah, if you don't have failure, like, are you really pushing yourself? Are you really getting better? And to learn from those failures rather than dwelling on them. And I think it just comes with time and practice and continuing to hear things like, or talk to people like you who have a good outlook on it. And even one time I had a rough workout. It was like last summer in St. Louis, and I was like, oh my God, I finished it, but my times were just not where I wanted them. And the guy I was running with said, those are the workouts you get the most out of when you finish, even though you're feeling like absolute crap.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, we have a couple of lighter questions. Somebody wants to know. I think this is a team specific question. Do you consider burrito bowls burritos?
I've heard this question a few times.
There's one right answer, apparently.
I do not consider burrito bowls burritos. They're bowls.
Perfect.
A burrito has to be wrapped in the burrito shell.
Yes. Kellen versus Steph versus Lauren in a 10K. Who wins?
Well, if you look at the last one, Kellen.
Good point. And I guess the one last question is, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you started running?
That the best thing you can do is be consistent. I've learned that from not only multiple people saying that, but I've learned that myself. And the times that I got better was when I was just consistent with my running, with my core, with my eating, with my consistency helps everything. And I wish I would have known that when I first started out in the sport.
Cool. Awesome. I think that's a good one to wrap on. And so if people want to follow along with your journey, where can we find you on social media?
I'm new to Twitter, so I just got a Twitter this week. So follow me there at Julia-Kohnen. And then I am also on Instagram. So I would say those are the two main ones that you can follow along with my journey here.
Awesome. Julia, thanks so much, and hope to see you out there sometime soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great to talk to you.
Of course, likewise. That's it for today's episode. Like many long runs, it's sad when it has to end. I hope you join in next week on For the Long Run, and in the meantime, happy trails. If you've enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to me if you shared it so that others can find it and enjoy it too.